Hey guys, as you can tell from all the posters behind me here, I'm a huge fan of Doctor Who, so I decided to show you my collection, starting off with the DVDs. Now, the first one I've already done a review of, which you should definitely check out, but it is Doctor Who Lost in Time. I'm not going to speak much about this, but this is a collection of rare episodes because a lot of the episodes were junked by the BBC because they didn't really think about syndication and reruns. Usually they only showed an episode like one time over, and then that was it. It just went to the archives. So yeah, a lot of the episodes from the first and second Doctor, the William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton years, were lost. But these are surviving episodes and clips from that. So this is a really good pickup to have if you're a fan of the first two Doctors here. Alright, moving on, we have the beginning collection. This includes the first three stories, An Unearthly Child, The Daleks, and The Edge of Destruction. Yeah, this starts off the William Hartnell years, and I mean, if you're just getting into Doctor Who, this is I would say probably a good place to start. If you're not, if you don't like black and white TV shows, then I suggest you would actually start with the new series, the Christopher Eccleston series that started in 2005. Yeah, I would definitely recommend picking that up if you're not a fan of black and white. But I mean, these are some really good stories. But yeah, I mean, this is a really good pickup to have if you're a fan of Doctor Who, because I mean, it shows you how the show started back in 1963. So I would definitely recommend this one. Next, we have the Keys of Marsinus. This is an interesting story. It's written by Terry Nation, the same guy that created the Daleks. I think this is actually maybe the only other story he wrote that doesn't include the Daleks in it. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story. So I mean, maybe not a definite pickup, but I mean, at least rent it. It's fairly enjoyable. Next one we have is the Aztecs. This is kind of gone down as a classic story, and it actually is pretty good. It involves one of the Doctor's companions trying to change history, trying to stop the Aztecs from doing human sacrifices. But of course, you know, the Doctor is totally against changing history. So it's definitely a fun watch just for the interplay between the two characters. So yeah, I'd say pick this one up. Now we're moving on to, this is actually story number 10. This is the Dalek Invasion of Earth. I really enjoyed this story. This is the second story to feature the Daleks. It actually has them invading London in the future. But this is a really fun story with the first Doctor. Definitely pick this up. Now we have The Rescue and the Romans. The Rescue is, I mean, this is two stories. The Rescue and the Romans. Rescue's a two-parter, and the Romans is a four-parter. But I mean, The Rescue is an okay story. It does introduce a new character to the TARDIS group, so they do that pretty well. But the story is fairly weak. So I mean, really, you only watch that to get kind of a handle on the new character, and that's it. The Romans, oh man, the Romans is hilarious. It was their first attempt as a comedy, and it works extremely well. So I mean, I would definitely recommend this to at least watch The Romans. It's a really good story. Now we have the Web Planet. This is a bit of a strange story. Very ambitious. They have some interesting costumes because it's supposed to be a planet of kind of bugs. I think they're called the Menoptera and the Zarbi. But yeah, I mean, they're like butterflies and ants. Probably, well, definitely way too ambitious for the time. But the costumes actually are really well conceived. So you know, I would say watch it just to see the really interesting costumes in it. But as far as the story, it's just okay. Now we have the Time Meddler. Now this story actually has one of my favorite companions ever in it, Stephen Taylor. I can't really explain why I like him so much. I just do. But this is a really interesting story and has a great twist in it. I won't give it away. But it involves like the TARDIS brings Dr. Stephen and Vicky to the 11th century in England, and they're finding like they find like a wristwatch, which shouldn't be there, and so it kind of leads to a mystery about the mysterious monk. But yeah, this is a really interesting story. I definitely recommend seeing this. Now that brings us to the War Machines. Now this is an interesting story. It's actually one of the only William Hartnell stories that are set in present day. Well, I mean present day when the TV show aired. I mean it was in 1966. But this is one of William Hartnell's last stories. He was getting kind of sick and constantly forgetting his lines and everything, so they were actually trying to write him out of the show as early as an episode called The Celestial Toymaker, which was a few episodes before this one. But yes, this is definitely an interesting story about a computer that kind of gains sentience. So it's kind of a bit of a Terminator Skynet thing going on. But this is a really interesting story. I'd recommend watching it. Okay, now we're moving on to the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, and the Tomb of the Cybermen. Now, this was actually thought to have been one of the missing episodes. It was actually thought to be missing for 25 years. And then they found full prints of it in Hong Kong in 1992. And so this is actually the earliest complete Cybermen story they have. But you know, this is an okay story. It's fairly I mean, it sticks to formula. We'll just say that kind of like a Base Under Siege, but I guess in reverse because they're actually in the Cybermen's base. But you know, this is pretty fun. It's got a second Doctor's companions, Jamie and Victoria, which work fairly well together. But yeah, this is I would say, you know, rent it. But it's a good story. Now moving on to the Mind Robber. This is a very imaginative story, which makes sense because it uses a lot of literary characters in it. But the TARDIS actually gets taken to the land of fiction, and so they have all these like characters from books. Like they have a unicorn in there, toy soldiers, Gulliver, Rapunzel, Sir Lancelot's in it. This has Jamie and Zoe, which is a much better combination than Jamie and Victoria. So yeah, this is a definite watch. Okay, now we have one of my favorite Patrick Troughton stories. It's the Invasion. Now, what makes this really interesting is that episodes 1 and 4 of this is a 6-part episode, by the way, but episodes 1 and 4 are actually missing. This is one of the incomplete stories. But what they did was, this is kind of an experiment, but they actually got a company to animate the 2 missing episodes. And so everybody got excited, you know, when this was released, because they're like, oh, well, they're going to do that for the other, you know, missing episodes. But sadly, that's not going to be the case because they really didn't recoup the animation cost for this, so they're not going to be animating anymore, at least not anytime soon. But yeah, this is another notable thing. This is actually the